tuned. Arrive. Happy Monday, villagers. I'm starting a new Members Mondays, and every week I'm recording a message just with the members of our virtual studio in mind. Everyone else, it's really just irrelevant information. Unless you choose to step into our virtual studio, this is all just fun and intellectual so that you understand, the scope. Maybe it piques your interest, but until you're in our studio engaging with our classes, this message really, it'll just wash on by. But you might pick something up anyway. So I wanted to talk and introduce, the idea of our virtual studio, which is to continuously offer growth and advancement and connection from the physical body, right, but from the inside out. So the physical body as a container. When we approach our practice, we really take two principles first and foremost. We want to help our awareness, our studentship, push their presence, their state of mind, their posture. They sort of push themselves into creation and then start to tone and hug and swaddle that beautiful expression of bigness and greatness. And we do that in a lot of different ways. But what really makes us unique is the ways that we integrate and support ourselves with props, with the proper use of external tools. We have chairs. Every single one of our movement experts uses the wall. Of course, we have the yoga block. But there's some extra ways that we're integrating and teaching our virtual studio practitioners to utilize these props, not just in triangle pose, not just in static expression inside of a 1 hour practice, but in a way that helps to bring more dynamism, more aliveness, more of that feeling of resiliency, of connection. I mean, I could just stop at saying more of that feeling, right? We're really trying to awaken a sense of feeling in our bodies when we find that radial push from the very deep core center, which let's just not pretend that we have to do a lot of digging in order to get to that place. But once we do, we push from the inside out, and then we swaddle that expression, right? We reach in every direction, and we make sure that that insulation, that protective layer, it's not hardened armor, that layer is there to help us even expand more. This push starts out modest, confused, humbled again and again. But as we start to explore the use of props, that's when we start to feel the body in space. We feel the edges, we feel the joints, the major hydraulic throughways in our body that pumps fluidity and liquidity, right? Like lubricating the whole, hydrating the entire system of the myofascial skeleton relationship. So we push from the inside out, we swaddle that beautiful creation, that expression of bigness is supported by a uniform hug. And we take ourselves into the world of exploration, especially of sensation, by getting immediate feedback. Okay? So if I come from a sitting posture to just like listening to my teacher at the beginning of class and just sort of like slouched into my seat, that's a very different relationship. I see a lot of people sort of waiting till like give me sensitization A, right? And they're sitting like this until class starts. Right? This is the way that they sit. But when we start to be aware of props and how we can hold ourselves in a way that practices life, right? We want to practice, oh, I have to like untangle that out of my body. We want to practice holding ourselves for how we move about life. That's another way that we use props, to give ourselves immediate feedback on how are we balanced in both that internal push and that external hug, that support structure of all of the many layers, creating a beautiful container around that which is contained. And so that's really where, of course, we bridge the gap into the spiritual world, the ethereal place, where when we make more space inside the body, we really tap into a sweeter sensation of self. And every time we connect with center, we actually go even deeper into our own experience. And from that place, the push, again, happens from the inside out. And we support that push and that natural, organic, and proportional, this is huge, growth. Proportional growth. Imagine in your life not just having to put all of the attention on your work in order to get better at work, but to be able to put more attention on the relationship with self, healing that dialogue, resonating in harmony with what the heart and the mind can come aligned with, right? We're really starting to utilize the physical as a gateway in. Isn't it interesting? We're using outside support in order to get there. Well, why would we be using so many props if it's trying to get into the center? I used to have this philosophy like, I don't need any props, I just need my own body weight. Well, similarly, like how you would use a wall or the floor if you wait there, you can use your whole body itself as a prop, creating the same resistance, the same experience, the same sort of heightened sensations that the props will give you. So this is to reawaken us from our deep sleep. No big deal. A lot of us are going through life extremely numbed out. We have trauma, we have bias, we have fear and emotions lodged in places, we have there's so many things that we could say relating to our nervous system response, our physical tissues and the health therein, and the circulation and the respiratory system, of course, the whole body, right? So we're looking at how to really make space from the inside out for that circulatory, system-wide support structure, right? Which really, when you make more space from the inside, everything works better. But we're so hardened often in our day-to-day experience. We're so numbed out. I said earlier today that I feel like society has pretty much had our finger in a light socket for a couple of decades. In general, our nervous systems are fried. So when it comes to feeling, well, we just rather not. It's not convenient. And I have to say that in that memory of like what's been going on to our nervous systems for quite a while at this point, there's a sort of mourning of the sensitive, the vulnerable human nervous system, human immune system, human sensorial system. Human experience as a whole is really delicate. And in fact, that's when it works at its best. When it's able to really trust and open and explore and expand and feel safe to evolve and learn more and become better, different, more whole. That's really how we start to allow ourselves growth and change. Otherwise, it's entropy. It's full degeneration and degradation of this experience. So when we feel, which is a whole lot of statement, but when we feel as much as we do when we use the feedback of props, suddenly our experience becomes so much more present. Like me just choosing to sit on a support structure. Now I sit on a cushion when I start my classes, or sometimes I'll use a block. But as a practical evidence of why I've used them, they allow me to sit like this. Often when I'm ready to start my practice, I don't need a support, but I'm also not collapsing without it. I actually know how to support myself with my hydraulic system from that internal push and that universal tone. So when we use props specifically, you'll find each teacher has their own style and their own desire. And I just want to understand that this is really why we encourage you to step into our virtual studio and see what's happening in live time. Our teachers are having their own experience of life, and they're understanding that the stress of life right now is pretty intense. And when we use props, there's a different application of stress. And we actually learn how to hold stress, how to take stress, how to apply stress, how to increase the stress on the body in a healthy and sustainable way. That is when we listen, when we really tune in to what the body is telling us, to the messaging system that we're receiving moment to moment to moment. So that's why we're continuously starting the experience with using external support structures like the props, and then that gives us the viscera, the exact sensitivity across the body, what we can create for ourselves. When we increase the capacity to push from the inside and to tone the whole system in just a sweet hug on yourself, right, you're really helping to build the capacity of your system. Little by little, push by push, right? So in the upcoming retreat that we have, which is a 2-day wellness immersion called Make Space for Grace, really we're talking about that internal push, that expansion on the inside, and how you can use all of these props to actually help expand your rib cage 360 degrees. And when you know how to use that, that really helps you to explore sensation and to explore strength and relationship. And that experience of the layers from the very surface skin into the bone, into the joint system, and even into your own pulse. So this is really what makes us different, is because we're learning how to use really basic tools, but in a way that penetrates through the container and helps us to experience what is contained inside. And that's what makes our relaxations at the end of every class really juicy, because we get through so many layers of tissues that when you can come to a point of relaxation, you can really let go, and a lot of times let go those old tangled knots. So we're leaning into the supportive props, not because we can't create the sensation ourselves, but because this actually gives us a platform to build more endurance, if you will, and stamina, and get instant feedback so that we can pivot and recalibrate the minute we know we've lost symmetry. We've lost that proportion in our push. And we'll talk about how in each class you can feel the feedback of the props in a different way. So obviously I have this big stability ball next to me, and this I've been using all of 2021 and even a little bit longer. But as the exploration has expanded, I've really been using this as a way to calm my nervous system and give it that sort of, let me put my weight into this structure so that I don't have to hold on to it. And I can do that in a back bend, I can do that in a side bend, in a weight-bearing position. It's quite delightful. But even just the idea, this might look silly, but of giving this big ball a hug, and I lay on it and I have my students balance on it and find spinal curves and full breath. There's so much that you can explore, and just think about 45 minutes being fully supported through a movement practice. And that the guarantee, and takes a learning curve, is that you don't have any extraneous strain after class. You never put too much effort in any one part of the body because you're instantly getting feedback. Same thing with the straps, and this awesome feedback of the resistance loop was introduced to us by Paris. So you can find these on Thursday mornings with Paris. She explores the capacity to use this in a lot of deeper movement practices. You can find them in packs of 3. We have lightweight, which you can use during practice, or you can even slide on the medium for a Paris class, or you can even use the more stable one, the heavier density, for just walking around and doing basic posture. It's really interesting when you start to use some of these outside of practice. You get really creative, you get really exploratory, and you get really honest feedback of your own body. And everybody has to go through that experience. This is part of our job as movement experts, is we hold space for you to find what's right. And that's another thing that's really important about what makes us different is that we're not necessarily bringing an outside expression as much as attempting to bring out an inside experience. Now, some classes are more physical, some classes are more emotional and mental, especially meditation, but they all attempt to address the whole system, right? So how would you use, the whole system with a strap? Well, when you're able to use something with such bounce and springiness, right? You can put this just over both arms and then push out. You can even hold a block. You can interlace or try to connect your fingers. You can try to stretch your arms out. You can play with what does the heart do when the limbs can't move as much. How does that apply to our daily life? In our classes, we're always trying to remind you that the deeper effort, the place from which you push connects from such a deeper center, that is where you're going to have the most impact. Think about if you were moving your arms and your limbs and you were coloring your hair and doing your nails and buying a new car and getting a new job and moving across the planet, those expressions are very much changes of the external. And we want to have the motivation, the ripple effect, the expression of our outside world coming from a place of that which is recalibrating deeply inside. So when I use the feedback loop of the loop, as I'm pushing, I'm actually trying to stabilize more than move everything from my fingertips to the edge of my heart, the side of my ribs, the boundary of my container inside the trunk. And at that point, really give myself a boundary into which I push from the inside. And so holding the block much is the same way. You stabilize the edges of your body. And in that, you get a totally different access to that internal push from the inside out. And this is a really, really easy step to overlook. We have been taught in society to no pain, no gain, muscle through it, brute force, at all costs, grit your teeth. And the tapasya of your willpower is crucial. But to be wise in how you apply your effort is sustainable. It's destiny, right? How you learn how to navigate. And when we use our props, it might seem a little bit confusing because you'd rather just do the practice as it is. Just give me a couple poses, I'll breathe inside of it. Even finding the dynamic pulse in our practice can be a little bit unsettling. And that's another thing that causes us to be a little bit unique in our sequencing, in our flow, in our information that we share inside of our virtual classes, is that we're in pretty much constant motion. When you get that push, you find that beautiful hug across the system, that's when you can really be playful. That's when you can explore all the dimensions. Keep yourself open and centered, and then play. Go in all the directions and be in all of those creative expressions that you can. But it's okay to take ourselves way, way, way back from that external and make sure that we're not reaching for it, which we often do with our chin in our alignment. We're not hyperextending and trying to force an overexpression through our joint system, which makes it then more detrimental than sustainable. When we use the block, which is one of my absolute favorite props, and again, all of my movement experts are using blocks, I like to stand on my block. I like to make my foundation more unsteady, and I like to offer that in classes as well, so that people standing can feel what the body actually does, the mechanism of the ankle, how the feet and the toe tips work, how the strength at the arch of your foot becomes so crucial to the whole informational pathway all the way to your brain, right? This is the furthest edge of the body. So when you get the feedback of a different flooring, a different ground, a different earthen experience, the agility of our foot comes alive again. And we remember that primal relationship that we used to have before shoes and concrete. It's another story. But we really do try to bring back this very visceral, very primal movement, but sensorial experience as well. And that comes with getting feedback. We even use, of course, little connected tissue balls, softball, golf ball, perfect size for the bottom of the foot. But in general, you'll find us using the bands, the blocks, and the balls the most. And balls of all sizes, really. And we want you to explore with us. Now, this is really crucial, too, to coming to our virtual studio classes. You inspire us every single time you come to class. Those of us who get to be live with our movement experts, and it's so, as a student, so I can include myself in that. So I get to drop in to Anne's and Katie's and Paris's and Megan's class, and I consider myself so fortunate to be able to do that. But that's really where our movement experts are getting inspired and exploring our own growth, because we're constantly evolving, and there's never been a weirder time on the planet. So why not, get really comfortable with practicing at home and finding tools that we can utilize that actually help to train new habits, new system-wide experiences, and even a calming, more supportive relationship, so that we can learn how to chill out our nervous systems. We can stay open even in this crazy unknown time. We don't have to close off completely and fight against the world, because we're learning how to open using the support, learning how to give a hug again, and open in a safe way that is fully contained. And we know how to hold in proportion the weight, stress, the external pressure that life puts on us. The more we let it push in, the more we actually become a hardened version, a dried up sort of bitter expression, and I mean that with full love. The body literally dehydrates, and we become a little bit more delicate, but not in a vulnerable way, in a sort of defensive way. When we learn how to stay big and soft on the edges, soft, receptive, permeable, but protected, wow, does life take less of a toll. There's, in fact, every time we push, the opposite of entropy, syntropy, life force, vitality, the expansion, that horizon eyes that we look out into the broadest idea of future, of dreaming, of belief in ourselves, and then how we relate to the outside world. Life doesn't always make it easy, but really, what is this human experience other than to know ourselves completely? To really go in and courageously look honestly at all of our aspects, the shadows, the light, and find a way to either let them go, certain aspects, certain ideas, certain behaviors, or welcome them into the whole. So that when you push from the inside, it's an integrative process. You account for every single one of your 70 trillion cells, and then you hug on to them, you protect them, you swaddle around them. Push from the inside and give yourself a hug to stay open and protected. Believe it or not, that's the journey of a class. When we come into using these structures, and if you have just seen our classes maybe in the archive library popping up and you're sort of scrolling past them, I wanted to give you a little bit of a moment to hey, take a pause and consider, why are we using things? I always have reasoning behind my choices, and I always love questions around them, around my perspectives, around my approach, around my consideration, my experience, my growth process. Boy, oh boy, do I have so much to learn. But these props have given me such incredible feedback that when you can't go out into the physical, when it's really hard to find somebody with eyes on or hands on, you have to know how to create the space for yourself in your own time, in your own world. I have to say, while technologically, consuming as it is, to create your own space at home, if you haven't done that yet and you're one of our VIP members, let us help you treat yourself in a more VIP way. Because to really clear out your dirty socks, to wipe away the cobwebs and to put a little crystal or light a candle. Allow yourself to go there over and over and over and over and over and over and over. You get it. Maybe you surround yourself with things that inspire you to practice or to bring that sweet ritual ceremony from the mat into how you work in your day, sit at your desk, driving your car, stand at your sink, discuss, relate, be in life with world as it is. It will give you every reason to play small. It just will. It's more easy, it's more convenient, especially for everyone else. So if you want to accommodate everyone else first, that is definitely a choice. When you learn how to push from the inside out, which is what makes us unique, because that's from the point where we start. The relationship with yourself and the desire for more, that's what brings you to class. That's what brings you to a relationship of growth, of expansion, of possibility, new, of change. Often our practice becomes just, I know exactly what to expect, do not ruffle my feathers, do not make me feel anything other than what I feel, I just want to stretch my hamstrings and strengthen my biceps. You can do that all day long. Chaturanga is there for you. Get into your down dog. If you want to have an experience that expresses the whole system through every single transition, your from vertical to forward fold is just as important as a down dog shape, right? The transition itself, and we learn how to use props in order to support us in an open posture for how we get up off the floor. How do we do a back bend? How do we stand up and hold ourselves? Just imagine standing up and holding a ball over your head for 30 seconds, much less a couple of minutes. I've been known to do that with my classes as well. It's one of the most important things to be able to do. Lift your arms overhead. But without a full heart, it's not sustainable. And you definitely have a different feeling about your teacher in the moment of doing so. You want to find that capacity to make life enjoyable, to make life doable, to make life, feelable. Don't walk yourself away from life. See how we can permeate between the physical and the spiritual so quick. And we use this because these props will remind us ultimately of how to build a relationship first. From the outside in, get the feedback. That gives us a glimpse of what's happening on the inside. And then we can push into new potential. That's the process of growth, process of advancement. Your transformation awaits you when you step into our virtual studio. Daily classes. Now, of course, we know that not everything drives up with your schedule, and we want to keep surveying and connecting with you guys so that we know what time works for you if you want to come. If you don't want to show up to be seen, why? Just ask yourself that. You don't have to spill your guts to any of us. Ask yourself why. Can I get that feedback honestly? Can I be willing to learn from a different stimulus in order to perhaps recalibrate to a way that might include a touch more sustainable approach, a touch more compassionate relationship to my nervous system so that I'm not pushing past any healthy edges. That I know how to really put the gas on, and I know how to put on the brakes. I know how to apply healthy pressure and really play my edge because I know that point where I lose it and I find my lack of integrity. This is huge work. And if you can't tell how passionate I am and my teachers are in this practice, I'll definitely come into a class. It's important that we continuously open a dialogue because change is happening at every level. And so when we come into our practice and we utilize external support, we utilize each other, really you help us so much as we inspire every day ourselves to come to the drawing board to really look at what it means to get through this. You gotta zig and we gotta zag. I want to know your experience if you just started to apply some of this technique, if you've been exploring some of these props, if you haven't yet, consider investing. They're pretty affordable. I think both of these together are less than $30. And if you have softball, great. Grab a yoga block if you don't have one yet. But just the wall itself, learning how to really learn the language, or speak the language of feedback, uniform tone, push from the inside, all of those expressions that make us unique in our practice, that really helps you to create a sensation of what's going to give you feedback. Because boy, oh boy, if you know how to push from the inside, you're literally going to see a ripple of your life. You're going to see the benefit radiating in every single direction. So why not be an active participant by even more maximum results? That get even more benefit from your effort. You're not fighting yourself by, doing too much muscle, too much effort, not enough ease, not enough balance, proportion. So that's what makes us unique. And I wanted to direct that to our members because we're always growing. And using these props is newer language for us, but it makes so much sense in the body. And honestly, that's one of our hardest jobs, I think, as yoga teachers and movement experts. We come to this seat and we're doing our best to describe sensation, what it feels like. And words themselves can often be clumsy. It's really honest when you come in direct relationship to the ball, to the straps, to the block, and the way we teach them especially to help you really feel through the many, many layers so that you can access the deeper core and radiate yourself in every direction even fuller. I hope you enjoy and you explore with us as we continue to grow and, of course, offer feedback. We're so always willing and excited to hear from you guys. So that's a little bit of what's going on right now. What makes Village Well unique and movement experts as we continue to push ourselves to the next edge. Grab a ball. Join me on Monday mornings usually. I'm playing there. Grab a block. Of course, every single one of our classes. A couple of bands in Paris has got you Thursday morning. And really, we all play with the wall and the ball, even a chair, the floor, and each other. So, thank you for being part of our tribe. I bow to you daily. So grateful for your energy, whether you get to be with us live or you tune in with us in the library. We're just happy you're here. VIP to all of us and to all of you. We really do appreciate your presence. You're so important to our family. Just stick around. Let us know if any questions pop up. Or if you have a prop that you love using. I know Katie's even brought in a broomstick before. Everything is a go. We want to hear what's unique for you. All right? Even the watering can in the garden can be a good one. So, wheelbarrow. I could go on. We'll talk to you again soon. Hope to see you in class. All my love. Namaste.